Welcome inside the studio with Hubbard Street Dance Chicago. So I was lucky enough to work with Bob and Gwen in several different capacities, both as a dancer and as an assistant. So I got to see both the creative process and then also how they work with dancers. My very first show was Dancin' on Broadway, and I was lucky enough to be hired to be in what he called his skeleton crew, which was only 5 or 6 of us, that he basically choreographed and worked out all the creative on just us. And then I also was in the video version of Pittman, which was interesting because it was watching Bob return to a piece and how he adapted things based on the performers in front of him, not just a carbon copy of what it had been before. So I learned something from that, which I always bring all of these things to my current work. And then the last thing I did with Bob was his last show on Broadway, which was Big Deal. And I was his assistant. So that was, again, seeing a whole different side of things from being out front and the worries and the concerns, but also learning about lighting and costumes and how all of these affect the entire picture.
I'm excited about this partnership because when I was in the company back in the early 90s, Gwen Verdon actually came to stage a Bob Fosse work, Percussion 4, on the company. And I remember how exciting that was for the company. Lou Conte, the founder, was actually highly influenced by Bob Fosse's work. And so I thought, wow, if we could get another Fosse piece in the rep, that would really be incredible. And come to find out, Nicole Fosse was also looking for a company where her parents' work could live on. And so it was really a mutual finding, and I'm excited about this partnership.
So in 2019, Nicole Fosse came to me, called me, and said that she wanted to do this piece and that City Center Fall for Dance Festival was interested in commissioning this work. And she sent me links to these 3 very separate pieces that had been done in the late 60s by Bob and Gwen for, 2 of them were done for a Bob Hope special and 1 was done for the Ed Sullivan Show. And 2 of them kind of went together, and the 3rd piece, I was like, I'm not sure how that's gonna work. So we talked, and she's like, I know you can do this. She was very trusting of kind of letting me work through this. And then I brought some ideas back to her about, let's change the order, let's take this trio and make it a solo. And I have an idea about how to connect it. And so she was totally on board with all of it and very involved in the development stage of it. So Nicole sort of gave me the green light to rework the music and rework it so that it really worked as a piece and also worked with the other 2 pieces. So I brought in a dance arranger, Lynn Schenkel, who's brilliant, and we kind of redid the music, and I kept as much choreography as I possibly could, and then wherever I needed something else, I turned to a large amount of Bob Fosse choreography that is available. I viewed every single thing I could get my hands on. So you'll see, things from other numbers sort of plugged in there where I needed. But I think hopefully, if I've done my job well, you'll never know the difference between what I put in and what was there originally.
Learning Sweet Gwen Suite has been really exciting for us because, as you know, Hubbard Street has started as a jazz dance company, and it's really exciting to kind of return to the roots of Hubbard Street through the jazz vernacular, and especially with this Fosse work, which is really complicated in a lot of the coordinations and the rhythms, and it's just been a ball and totally fun to learn and dive into.
I mean, I think we all know that Fosse is iconic, and I think it's huge for Hubbard to have something like that, and especially a concert dance company, and it's just been so fun. The dancing itself is so fun, and there's so many layers, and it's complex, but it's also cool and jazz, and I think it's gonna be so awesome for the audience.
Just having the opportunity to stage Fosse work on a dance company of this caliber is amazing. I mean, they're the only dance company in the world that has Fosse in their repertoire, and I think that is just amazing.
First of all, I always say that the dancers are exquisite. They're genius, they're fabulous, they're fierce. So that fierce quality that you can always rely on with Hubbard Street, you're gonna see that. You're gonna see the precision. You're gonna see the fact that this company is not limited by anything, any genre. And so all of that charisma that we bring to everything that we do, you're gonna see that with Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon's work.
And you want to think of picking up those passes in like a parallel, but then as you put your foot down, turn them out so that otherwise you look like you're marching. So you want to be like that, that.
It's been great about being extremely clear with us and always letting us know exactly what's needed with us from the work. And it makes it very easy and exciting to support what's happening in the room.
Yeah, it's really cool having someone that has danced a lot of Fosse's work with us, and just her knowledge and her historical knowledge, and hearing little anecdotes and stories from like older processes and older works, or like where different movements came from, and kind of getting the backstory on stuff and the history of it has been really fun. And it's been cool to like integrate that into how we're learning it and let it like kind of color how we're reviving this work.
Both of them came at things from a sort of an acting point of view to a degree, especially Gwen. Like you have to have a whole inner monologue going on when that's how she dances. And Bob would work with a lot of imagery. You know, he would say if he wanted a certain amount of tension, he would say, you're like a racehorse at the starting gate with all this energy. And so all of those words and the things that he said or she said, kind of just, you internalize them, so that now coming back and working here at Hubbard Street, I'm trying to pass some of that along to the dancers and make the oral history a part of the choreography. There's just this, it's my favorite way of working. Everyone is just working really, really hard, but there's fun and there's joking and there's laughing and there's silliness. It just feels like such a supportive community in there. I noticed, you know, it didn't matter yesterday about whether it was the people who are cast for this season or not. Everyone was working equally hard and being supportive of each other, and I just thought it was really cool.
If you've never seen Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon's work, I hope it's an education or an introduction. If you've seen some things, or maybe you think that there are some iconic qualities to Bob Fosse's work, I want you to realize that there's so much more. I want people to take in all of the details. I want them to have a great time, because the work is so much fun.
Well, first of all, I hope they'll just be delighted and entertained. If they know Fosse work at all, I hope they'll look at this and be kind of surprised, because I think people have an idea of what Fosse is these days. You know, if you've seen, I don't know, Chicago or something, you're like, oh, that's Fosse. But in reality, his style ran through so many different kinds of dance. I mean, the flamenco and jazz and ballet and tap and East Indian, and you know, he studied all kinds of dance, as did Gwen. So there's just more to it than what people think. So I think people will be surprised by that. I hope they find the humor in the piece, because it is sort of a delightful piece. It's one of my favorite things about this is some of Bob's work can be ironic or dark. This is none of those things. It's fun and joyful.